My name is Greg Holmes. I'm a lay preacher here at Kiama Anglican Church, and it's been my privilege to write this set of studies, and it's my great privilege to try and introduce them to you in these few minutes of introduction. This is a series on discipleship, or on being a follower of Jesus, if you like, Christianity 101, or walking with Jesus. The Bible often speaks of walking as a metaphor for the Christian life. Some modern translations lose that sort of picture by speaking of living the Christian life, but I like the idea of walking as it implies progress. This is a series to help us rethink being Christian. It covers many aspects, from go to woe, if indeed there is any woe, and it begins at the beginning. But before we get to the individual studies, there are two books available. First, the study booklet, which gives you a guide to the reading of the Bible on the topics, and the second is the Thoughts booklet, which tries to give a few thoughts on the passages we look at. This second one is not meant to be leader's notes. It is there for everyone to use. The first study looks at what it means to become Jesus' disciple, to join him on the road. It's about salvation. It's about forgiveness. It's about reconciliation and beginning the walk of sanctification, beginning the process of becoming like Jesus. To follow the Master, to become like him, we have to look to him, to see where he is going. In the second study, we are urged, as Hebrews 12 says, to look to Jesus, to consider him, the one who has gone before, and to do that always in every context. Of course, Jesus is not physically present at this time, so when we look to him, we look to his word, to Jesus clothed in his word, the Bible. So the third study in this series turns our attention to the whole of the Scriptures, not just to the stories about Jesus on earth, the four Gospels, but also to the whole of the Old and New Testaments, as all of it points to and speaks about Jesus. We're in the wonderful position where God not only speaks to us through his word, he also desires to hear us as we bring ourselves and our lives and our concerns and our praise and our worship and our encouragements to him in prayer. And this wonderful privilege is the focus of the fourth study. The fifth study begins a sub-series of 5 on Christian relationships. When we enter into a saving relationship with Jesus, we do it as an individual. We are born again as an individual brother or sister of Jesus. But doing that also brings us together into a family of believers, a huge universal family, and also a local congregation that meets to worship, to build up, and encourage one another in our walk with Jesus. We proceed in these next few studies to look at our relationships to one another and the world under 4 headings: service, other person-centeredness, humility, and love, all of which are interrelated and which can be remembered by the acronym SOUL, that is SOHL. All of this is further explained in the Thoughts booklet. The first of these aspects is service. It's exemplified by Jesus as he washes the feet of his disciples before the Last Supper. And it means action by us on behalf of others. The second of these relationship characteristics, and our 7th study, is in regard to other person-centeredness. This is a phrase, I believe, coined by Dr. Broughton Knox, the former principal of Moore Theological College, and explained in his book, The Everlasting God. Basically, it means the utter opposite of self-centeredness or selfishness, which seems to be the default human position. The whole of Philippians 2 speaks eloquently of this. Knox and the study emphasise that this, and indeed the other aspects of relationship, are shown in action, not merely by feelings. We work at doing what is other person-centred. Our 8th study focuses on humility. Augustine, Calvin and several others have all said that the 3 basics of Christian living are, first, humility; second, humility; and you guessed it, third, humility. However, we have to understand humility correctly. Humility is not putting yourself down or being a doormat, but it is having a right view of yourself, firstly in relation to God, and then in relation to the others around you. Fourth, in this little subgroup, and study 9, is love. Galatians 3 encourages to, over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Love is the overarching characteristic of true Christian relationships. Each of the other 3 we looked at can only be done well if we love, as Jesus loved us. The relationship between these 4 aspects of Christian relationships are further explored in the Thoughts booklet. Those of us who are walking with Jesus are encouraged in the Scripture not to keep this great relationship and this great salvation to ourselves. God's will from Abraham on has been to use his people to bless all the nations of the earth. We have the good news. We are to share it. Go, make, grow disciples of Jesus is our KAC vision. So our 10th study in the series seeks to encourage us in our endeavours to share Jesus in our community. The final and 11th study in our series reminds us that the road on which we walk with Jesus passes through death and continues on into the glorious future that Jesus has promised us. We are, as we walk with Jesus, people with an eternal, certain, wonderful hope. Thanks for listening to this little introduction to the series, and it certainly is my hope and prayer that we might all, through this series, become that little bit more like Jesus, our Master.